Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. What we're specifically going to talk about today is Xenk Yendar, the powerful, dangerous, lawful good paladin who is a hero in the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie. And specifically what we're talking about today is Renee Jean Page's Xenk Yendar as presented in the historic D&D Beyond, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Thieves Gallery content element. Okay? And so basically, let's talk about Xenk Yendar. So he is native to Faerun. And he has chosen to become a very powerful paladin, and he has longevity. He doesn't age at a normal rate, right? What I think is really fascinating about Xenk is there's a lot that's fascinating about Xenk. So one, he seems kind of out of place in Edgin Darvis's. So Edgin Darvis is the leader of this team of thieves, right? And the way this team is structured is it began with Edgin Darvis, and then Holga Kilgore formed a absolutely dark steel strong relationship with Edgin Darvis, and her lore section actually says that she considers Edgin Darvis her home, right? So they are the heart of this thieving team, right? This team of thieves, right? And from there, they attached. It looks like they attached Doric, and they attached Doric, who is a medium humanoid, most likely a tiefling, medium humanoid druid, and then also medium human, most likely. Oh, actually, we already know. It seems that Simon Almer is a sorcerer, and medium humanoid is his identified species. Okay, but his lore says that he is a direct descendant of Elminster, and Elminster had a relationship with an elf, so he may have some elf blood in him, right? But what he definitely has is he has the sorceress magic blood, the magic bloodline of Elminster himself, right? So get this: you got Holga Kilgore, you got Edgin Darvis, you got Doric, and you have Simon Almer, the direct descendant of Elminster himself. Every single one of these heroes that we're going to get to meet in Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves, they are all challenge rating 5. That ain't the case with with Xenk Yendar, the lawful good paladin. Okay, he is challenge rating 10. Challenge rating 10. That is so much higher than anybody in the group that it makes me think he may not be an actual member of the group, and that he may be somebody who is temporarily allied with them, right? Because it's really hard to understand why a lawful good paladin would hang around with a group of thieves. Although it does seem that Holga Kilgore, actually, everybody in this thieving team is good aligned. No neutrals, good aligned, right? This ain't Shadow Dark RPG where good and evil are gone, right? Like, they're good and evil, right? And the heroes are good. Every single hero in this film, everybody I just mentioned, Xenk Yendar, Edgin Darvis, Holga Kilgore, Simon Almer, and Doric are all good aligned. Okay, but Xenk Yendar, and we should take a minute to talk about this, is lawful good. This is a strong statement from Hasbro, connecting right back to that Gary Gygax legacy and saying paladins are lawful good. Right? There's been a lot of nonsense recently that you can have an evil paladin, that you can have, that you could be in alignment other than lawful good. But it's really nice that the film is making this clear. Paladins are lawful good. That is the template, that is the tradition, that is Gary's legacy, and that's what they're embracing with the film, which I cannot say this enough. I really think well, it's already happening. Like, the product is the world, okay? This movie, what you see here, it's already being, in my opinion, every single thing in the movie will be written into D&D canon, right? And it's already happening. We already, Michelle Rodriguez's Holga Kilgore is canon in the Forgotten Realms, canon in Dungeons & Dragons. That's not a small thing, right? And these Hollywood images, right? Like, Dungeons & Dragons paid so that they could use the exact images of the people who are playing. Absolutely incredible. All right, so let's talk about Xenk Yendar. This dude throws down. Holy cows, man. He is very, very dangerous. So the most dangerous thing about him is he is a swords master, okay? And what is his sword? He has a Daggersword, okay? Now, what the heck is that? Well, it's a magical weapon, right? And he can do a whole bunch of things with it. One, it fully functions as a magical longsword, right? So it does regular longsword damage, and it does 6 radiant damage on top of that. And the radiant is coming from him being a good aligned paladin, right? So that's that extra juice from his god, right? That's in there. It's kind of exciting. And then, in addition to that, he has a ranged attack where his magical longsword can launch its blade up to 30 feet, impale someone into the ground or into a wall or into a tree, right? And essentially they are knocked prone, okay? Although I think if you were to impale someone against an upright object, they essentially would be functionally knocked prone. They wouldn't be able to move. However, at the end of the current turn, this is important, right? So at the end of the current turn, that means that once his sword goes through you into a tree behind you, right? You're not gonna, if you came after his initiative, you don't get to move, right? Because you're essentially prone. You're still upright, but you're pinned to a tree, right? At the end of the current round, the blade of his dagger sword, which can take the form of a longsword, or take the form of a longsword and a dagger, okay? But in its current form, when it launches out, it's a longsword blade. It pins you to a tree or a wall or the ground, right? And then at the end of the current turn, the blade magically reattaches to the hilt of the sword. That is bad $. That is killer. Absolutely love it. I think that's really cool. Check this out. Holy crap. Wow. Listen to this. Okay? With his if he goes dagger, longsword, full dagger and longsword, so basically a dagger unattaches from it, right? And he has a dagger and a longsword. So magically it is now 2 weapons. He uses the longsword in his dominant hand. He uses the dagger in his offhand. And what he does is, get this, he makes an attack and he can simultaneously strike every single target around him that he chooses, so he can actually exclude his any of his allies, but he can hit targets for 10 feet around him. If I'm doing this math right, okay, that means he would be able to hit the 8 blocks around him, and then he would be able to hit an additional, it's minimum 8 beyond that, right? Yes, at minimum 8 beyond that. So that is a total of 16 targets in one round. He could strike 16 targets and do all the same damage to all of them in the same round if they fail their saves, I believe, right? But he has the possibility of hitting 16 targets in a single attack. That is incredible. That is like incredibly dangerous. In fact, that's so exciting, right, that I actually think what's starting to happen, what you're really seeing here, I love Dungeons & Dragons so much, but one of the things that I really struggle with is you bring people to Dungeons & Dragons and And there is this concept that they're going to have a lot of fun, and it's going to be a lot of fun, right? But the first thing you do is you hand them a tax form. It's called a character sheet, but there are literally more bubbles on it than a tax form, right? And you're like, we're going to spend an hour and a half creating this, running through this character sheet, and we're going to form a character out of these 256 pages, rah, 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 right? And they're like, ooh, and when can I shoot lightning out of my hands? Well, you're a first level dirt farmer, so you're not going to be awesome for 9 months, right? And people are like, what? And I think Dungeons & Dragons is like, we bring people to Dungeons & Dragons, and then we just don't give them the power they're expecting. The game doesn't move at the speed we're expecting. It's not as awesome as people expect, right? So when you play Dungeons & Dragons, a lot of times they're just wah, 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 right? And I think regular Muggle people, it does not move at a cinematic pace, and they don't really get it. Now, if you're charismatic, confident, intelligent, you're patient, right? Like that patience comes. You can't really be charismatic without patience, right? I don't think you can even be confident without patience. And you certainly cannot be intelligent without patience. You need to wait and get knowledge, right? So the reality is charismatic, confident, intelligent people wait for the awesome of D&D, but regular people get frustrated by it. And I think what we're seeing with these new stat blocks is with these D&D Honor Among Thieves, Thieves Gallery stat blocks, is that they're saying we are literally going to shape the game so that the promise of cinematic fun, actually I would say the promise of cinematic joy, the promise of cinematic speed is a reality. So I really think that's what's happening with Dungeons & Dragons. I'm extremely excited to see Xenk Yendar. This dude, he is a banger, man. He's going to be able to drop some fools with this stat block. Am I understanding? He gets 16. He has the possibility of hitting 16 targets in a single turn. Am I right about that? Did you read this thing? Right? Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.